Hey guys, welcome to the part 2 of me telling you about the books that got me through 6 months offline without internet in the middle of a war zone. My name is Romina. I was editing my last video and I realized that the only time I said my name was in the first video I ever made. And it was almost a year ago. And then I just kept on filming videos. And in the beginning, I was like, okay, hey guys, you know me, I know you, let's just get into it. Girl, say your name maybe. Okay, so I'm sorry. I just get too friendly too soon, apparently, and you may not know me. Maybe this is the first time you ever clicked on any of my videos, and this is the first time you see my face. So, my name is Romina. It's a Persian name. If you can't pronounce it, it's fine. You can call me whatever you want to call me. I've been called many things. I think the easiest for you is what some of my close friends call me. They call me Roma. You can use that or whatever you want to use. I just wanted you to know my name if you don't. And if you've been here before and you know how crazy my life is in the middle of Iran, welcome back. Thank you so much for being here. You're the light in the middle of the darkness that is my country and my life. I don't have many updates to give you. Everything that I said in the last video still stands. We are in the middle of a ceasefire, but no fire has been ceased at all. We have some kind of attack almost every night. Some part of the country is being attacked. Maybe some nights are more silent than the other ones, but it's not like a ceasefire that we're just living our lives and we're like, okay, the war is over. Everything is still going on. And I don't want to get into this because I did in the last video and I got mad. So I'm just going to move on. There is one thing that I need to tell you because today we are doing a wrap up of the books that I read in May, June, and July. But here's the thing. This is one of the most important years of my life, which is a joke within itself. But in my country, when you want to get into university, you have this period of 1 month that you have an exam every other day, almost. And at the end of the month, you have finished 10 exams. Then 2 weeks after that, which will be 3 weeks from now. I am in the middle of that 1 month period right now. 3 weeks from now, I will have an exam that is in one day, and it's a 4 hour long exam about everything that I've learned in the 3 years that I've studied, and they are just in one exam. That exam in that one day is 40%, and this 1 month is 60%. So the total is a 100% score. And based on how well you do in both of these parts, then you will have some rank in the country and you will be compared to other people that have given all these exams, which are around 1 million people. Yes, it's a lot. It is what it is. And based on how well you've done that and your rank, you get into different universities in different parts of the country. Okay? So technically, the exams that I'm giving right now, and I've been giving them for a very long time and been preparing for them over the past few months. And the exam that I'm going to give is basically my whole future. And in the middle of all of that, a kind of a war is going on. I'm not calling it a full-on war because you know what's going on here, I hope. So that's why when I say I'm wrapping up the books I read in May, June, and July, I read 3 books in June and July together. So the books I read in May are, I don't know, some books that we're going to talk about, but then when we get to June, there are 2 books, and when we get to July, there's only 1. And that is such a shame, because in June we had Pride Month. And usually I read a lot of queer books, but that's not what happened this year because everything was just crazy. The whole situation in my country was crazy. We were having fights with different people in our country. Every other day I was having exams and my future is just hanging by a thread and I don't know what I'm doing with my life. And I'm so scared of failure. But oh boy, everything is crazy. That's basically what I'm trying to tell you. And I'm like, okay, this is not a cop out. I say June and July, but I technically didn't read that many books in June or July. So this is basically mostly a May reading wrap up. I talk too much. And now we need to get into the video before you just click off and you're like, what is this crazy girl talking about? Okay, let's get into May. After the months that we talked about in the last video, that was April, my birthday was in April, I started May with a very bad book. On 2nd of May, I started Half His Age. I expected so much from this book. I finished it the same day, rated it 1 star, and I have only written one thing. The fuck? Question mark. And I stand by that. What the fuck was that book? Okay, I don't want to curse, but okay, I was expecting something like My Dark Vanessa. And since I read her memoir, I was like, okay, this is going to be a little bit satire and dark humor will be used in this book. So I wasn't expecting My Dark Vanessa type of darkness, but I was like, okay, it's kind of the similar concept of a student dating her teacher, right? And it was a very weird book. It was written weird, it was cringy. I didn't really understand what the point of the book even was. So were you trying to write a taboo romance? No. Were you trying to say something? Not really. I don't think anything was said in this book that we needed to know. It was a very weird approach to a very important subject. You know, it was kind of... I don't know how to tell you this. The character was weird. The main character that we were in her head, the student, was weird. And her point of view was so weird and random. And you could see that there's some trauma inside of her that is causing this, but it was portrayed in a very weird, cringy way that I didn't really feel for her. And I didn't really understand the point of the story at any point of the story. At the beginning, I was like, what are we doing? Are we talking about her trauma? Are we talking about addiction in the form of shopping? What are we saying? So I hated it, and I thought I would love it, but I hated it because I don't think it served any kind of point. It was just edgy for the sake of being edgy. And I was like, I think she was like, okay, I'm going to write a dark book, and I'm going to mention that it is dark every other page, and it didn't work because it wasn't dark and it wasn't deep. The concept was, but the execution just wasn't. And I was just left standing there waiting for something to happen, and then the book ended with basically nothing. No conclusion, no consequences, no lessons learned, no nothing. And I didn't like it. I wanted so much more from her, and I didn't get that. And it makes me so upset that in the middle of having no internet and no access to new releases, this was the one that I managed to read, and it really, really, sorry I should say this, sucked. That's just my luck. Okay? Moving on. Oh boy. May 3rd. I was so angry about the last book that I was like, okay, let's have some fun with Ali Hazelwood. And if you've been here before, you know that 2020, what year are we in? Are we in 2026? I just glitched. Okay, so yeah, 2025 was the year of Ali Hazelwood for me. Two of my most favorite books of the year were from Ali Hazelwood. It was the year that I started reading her and I fell in love with her. So this was my journey of trying to read all of her books, and I read Deep End. I finished the book on May 4th and gave it a 3 star. Okay, it wasn't her best book. Let's just admit that. I didn't hate it as much as some people did. I heard reviews of it when it first came out and some people really hated it. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it as much as I loved some of her other books. The only thing that I loved about this was their major in college. As somebody who wants to study medicine and is basically obsessed with studying medicine, I loved the fact that both of these characters were going through MCATs and they wanted to become some sort of physician. And I just enjoyed the fact that I was reading somebody else being stressed out about getting into medical school as I am, and it was very enjoyable. I also loved the fact that it showed very, very honestly how competitive this field is and how kind of obnoxious we are. Okay, I can admit to that people that want to study medicine are a little bit extra. Okay, we get too competitive. We take some small things too seriously and we just look at the world with the view of like, okay, everything is very serious all the time. And I like that it was a very honest portrayal of that. I didn't really see the chemistry between these two characters. I'm not going to lie about that. I like them together because they got that ambition inside of each other. Okay, they got each other and the process that the other one was going through and they pushed each other to become better. I got that part of it, but the part about the, relationship and the chemistry between them and the sex and the smut, that I didn't get. Which is a very important deal because this book is the one that she's trying to get into BDSM a little bit. And when I say a little bit, I'm like a very teeny tiny touch of BDSM. That's not how it works, okay? As, again, getting way too personal over here, but as somebody has been around the block, that's not how it goes, okay? It's a very fictionalized version of, okay, let's write a list, let's do this. That's not how it's done, okay? Okay, that's all I want to say. So, 3 stars. I continued with the popular authors and I got into Emily Henry. Funny story, I started on May 4th, finished on May 5th. Gave it a 4 star. Okay, again, I have to repeat myself and say that I love Emily Henry. She's one of my favorite romance authors. If you can call her genre only romance, which I don't think her books are just romances. I have loved some of her books deeply, like Happy Place. Happy Place is my favorite. I have loved Beach Read. Funny Story was fine. It wasn't bad. It was still Emily Henry. The writing was still good. It wasn't as deep as her stories usually are. There's always a very deeper level to all the stories that she talks about. This one was not one of those stories. It was just a fun. I'm trying to remember if I really had fun. I don't know. It was not memorable enough for me to remember the experience of reading this book. It was good enough. It wasn't like bad. But Emily Henry always punches you in the gut in the middle of a love story. You're reading something and it's beautiful and it's deep and it's very, very touching. And then suddenly you find yourself crying because she suddenly punched you in the gut. And this book just didn't have that punch, you know? It was a beautiful love story that will probably never happen in our world because these two people are like her fiance and his girlfriend that have been best friends for years leave them to get married to each other. And then they find themselves with no place to live. So they go and live with each other, and that's the romance story. That's probably not going to happen to any of us. Even if the crazy thing of our fiancés leaving us for their best friends does happen, we probably will not move in with the other one's ex-partner. And if we do, we're probably not going to fall in love with them, right? Because it's like, okay, you're going to remind me of one of the worst things that ever happened to me every single day. Why the hell would I fall in love with you? And I didn't really see the love between them. Emily Henry is usually really good with making you feel that deep love and connection, and it was missing from the story. I could say that these two people are bonded to each other, probably trauma bonded to each other. They understand each other like no one else does because this is a very unique situation. And they like each other enough that want to have the other one's companionship, but love? I didn't see love. It was just lost on this story, which is a funny story because it's from Emily Henry. Okay, that was a pun. It was not funny. Just move on. On May 6th, I started Out of the Woods by Hannah Bonham Young, finished it on May 7th. I gave it 4.5 stars. Okay, I do remember this book. For this book, I can tell you that I really loved the romance and love between these two characters. I could really see that these two people are so filled with love and respect for each other, and they have been with each other for so long that that relationship is not really working the way it should be. So these two characters, Sarah and Caleb, I think, married each other when they were 17. And they have been with each other for, I don't know, 7-8 years, something like that. And from the author's note in the beginning, that's the author's experience marrying very young. And I could see that these two people are still filled with love for each other, but their relationship is just not working because these two people are not the same people that they were when they married each other. And they want to grow and they let the other one grow, but they really can't because somehow they're really scared that if they grow or if the other one grows, they're just going to grow out of that love, you know? And it was very tender and beautiful. And I really love that, especially as somebody who found a deep and great love when I was 17. I really understood them because there are parts of this book that are in the past when they are actually teenagers. I could really see myself in them. And I know that when I was 17 and in love, I would have married that person. So if that person was like, one day was like, okay, we love each other, let's just get married, I wouldn't say, okay, we're 17. No, I would have said yes. And I think I would have still been in that relationship. And I would have been like these two characters, so terrified of growing up and realizing that while growing, we lost the deep connection and love that we had between us. You know, I just loved reading that story and that experience of finding the love of your life when you're very, very young and you have not grown into a full adult yet, and the struggles that that brings, and how you have to manage to grow into the person that you're supposed to grow into while still letting that person be their own person and the love of your life. The only thing that I really didn't like about this book was the smut scenes. I just didn't enjoy them. Smut can be written in a way that I love, and I think it adds to the story, and it can be written in a way that I think it takes away from the story. And unfortunately for me, The smut in this book was the second kind. And it's not a lot. There's very few smut scenes in this book, and I wouldn't even call them smut scene. They're not that graphic. Maybe one of them is. And I really didn't enjoy them. I was like, ooh, that's cringy. Ooh, I just want this scene to be over. Can you just go back to talking to each other? So these two characters go into the woods. It's a kind of a therapeutic group. They go to the woods, they talk about their feelings, and they make each other feel better. It's a camp, they have guided. It's a camp, they have some guides that help them talk about them and journal and stuff. And they're just trying to get back to the point that they were in that love that was beautiful and healthy and make their relationship work again. So yeah, I really enjoyed that. There was a paragraph of that I loved so much. And hold on. I'm going to find it for you because I loved it so much that I sent it to the person that I loved when I was 17. I love you a truly stupid amount, and I understand what he means by stupid, because I've come to the same realization. We are far too young to be feeling this way. Far too young to give ourselves over to someone else this much. That this will most likely end, as most first loves do, meaning we're both running heart first towards heartbreak. And what else could you call that other than stupid? But even still in this moment, I cannot bring myself to care about that possibilities at all. I choose to hope that maybe, just maybe, fate will have something kinder in store for us, that I'll never need to know a day without Caleb, his ease, puns, or comfort ever again, that just maybe I got lucky earlier than most. I loved that paragraph because that's exactly how I felt falling in love that deeply while being 17. I was so deeply in love. I thought I found my soulmate. And right now I'm 21 and I still believe that that person is my soulmate. Okay, let's not talk about it because, oh boy. Let's get into the next book that I read. I changed genres and got into mysteries. On May 8th, I started High Season. The next day, I finished it and gave it a 3.5. I have written good but nothing special. Predicted the answer. That's actually what I remember. That it was fine. The pacing was fine. The story was fine. The atmosphere was fine. Realize you can see that I'm using the word fine too much because that's exactly what this book was. It was fine. It was a very fine mystery and it ended in a very fine way. There was nothing special about it. There was no plot twists that were shocking to me. I could really see the answer like the first 10 pages. It was so obvious and it didn't really shock me, so I didn't really enjoy it that much. I think at points it became boring because I could see that the writer was trying to confuse me into believing that something else was the truth, but it was so obvious that it didn't work. And it very ruins the experience when the author is trying to throw you off the tracks, but the tracks are so obviously there that you can't even pretend that you're being thrown. So that was the experience with this book. It's about a girl that was killed one summer in a swimming pool. And it's years later, and the only person who saw that thing happen was her very young sister, Nina. I think she was like 4. And she was the one that testified in court and said that, okay, this person killed my sister. And that person went to jail based on some evidence. But more importantly, that testimony, and it's years later, and everybody in the world is still talking about that. And it's like, okay, that person was not guilty, and a 4-year-old kid cannot really say what they saw in a way that you can use it in the middle of a legal defense. So they go back to that home and try to, that little girl that is now an adult goes back to that home to try and figure out what she saw and if what she testified to was actually the truth. But it was again very, very predictable. and fine and boring. And I don't really like fine or boring stories. I moved on to, oh my god, this was the month of reading releases from the authors that I love that came out in 2025. On May 9th, I started Atmosphere from Taylor Jenkins Reid. Finished it. It took me longer than I thought. I finished it on May 12th and I gave it a 5-star because how can you give a Taylor Jenkins Reid book less than 5 stars? And this one specifically, it doesn't really compare to Daisy Jones and the Six. That's always going to be my favorite. But this one specifically hit the rightest places that a historical fiction book can hit. First of all, they are lesbians. And they're lesbians in the time that you cannot really be a lesbian. It's not legal, you can be fired, it can have many crazy consequences for you. And I, as somebody living in Iran, can understand that better than anybody can. And I was like, okay, I saw myself so much in these two people. They are NASA women. They are smart. They're brilliant. They're like the future. They're building the future. And they have to worry about the fact that if somebody realizes that they're sleeping with another woman, they can lose their jobs. Do you understand how crazy that is? That you don't consider the fact that, okay, this person is so capable of doing great things. They are brilliant. They're smart. They're doing something that no one else can. They are the first women being in NASA. And then you just close your eyes on all of that and you're like, you sleep with another woman? Who cares? But apparently a lot of people did. And in my country, a lot of people still do. And if something like this happens here, you don't only lose your job, you get hanged. Because being queer in Iran is illegal and punished by death. So imagine how I was reading this. And it was actually both touching and comforting to see that, okay, the struggles that we are having are the struggles that people have had, queer people have had for many, many years. And this is the fight that is still ongoing. But it was really heartbreaking because I was like, I'm reading a historical fiction. And the things that they had to deal with in the past are still the things that we have to deal with decades later here. And we will probably have to deal with them for decades to come. And it can just cost our lives. So, yeah, that was sad, but the relationship between them was really beautiful. And I loved the fact that they cared so deeply about each other that against all the odds, they still found a tender love and they tried so hard to keep that relationship going. And again, there's just scenes in books that just stay with me. There's a scene in this book that they are in the middle of a wedding. And in the ceremony, they are so sad because they cannot have that. One of them is telling the other one, I would have married you if I could. If they let me, I will marry you tomorrow. I will meet all your family. I will love you. I will marry you. But I cannot give you that love because they don't allow me to. And it hit so deeply that I started crying while reading that. And it was such a deep gut punch because I was like, yeah, that's our lives. Welcome to our lives, baby. That's exactly what is going on still here. So I don't know, be happy that you're American or European or wherever else you're from that is not Iran. Especially if you're queer, be very thankful that you don't live in Iran, I guess. Okay, May 13th. Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. One of the weirdest books that I picked up. The book is not weird. The weird thing is that many people loved this book for many years. And I was the one that was like, I don't think it's going to be my cup of tea. So I didn't pick it up. at all. But then I was in the middle of everything that was going on, and that book was on my shelf, and I had it downloaded, even though I always said no. And I was like, okay, we're here, so let's just pick it up. And I finished it on May 14th, gave it 4 stars, loved it. Loved it. As somebody who has never been a gamer, I didn't even know the term gamer for a very long time. Okay, never played a game. Is that the correct way of saying it? Played a game? Is that wrong? I think that's wrong. Don't be mad at me. I know nothing about this world. I'm so sorry. I was so deeply invested in this story that I was like, okay, I need to learn everything about gaming. Because this sounds perfect. This sounds amazing. This sounds like you can build a world in the middle of it. I loved it. I loved the way that they valued stories and how they found each other and how they healed while telling stories about other people. I just loved the plotline of this book. They are just, I think you know what this is about. They're two kids that met each other in the middle of a hospital while one of them was there and the other one's sister was in the hospital, and they met and they gamed, if that terminology is right. And they found that there's another one in this world that loves games as much as I do, and they started playing with each other and building imaginary games. They met again in college and they actually built a game, and it went from there. And they have this relationship of, okay, we admire each other and we love each other so much, but we can never be with each other romantically or really close to each other as friends, because we're going to have fights and we're going to destroy each other every single time, but we can't really live without each other either. And I love the dynamic between them. I love that both of them were really, really brilliant. But there was one character that was smarter, and you could have seen that. There's just something that really sad happens in here, and a character that I love doesn't have the ending that I wanted them to have. And that was sad. This is basically a sad book, but it's a very sad, kind book. And I loved it very much. Okay. Again, I switched up and I read Not in Love by Ali Hazelwood. I started this book. Oh my god. Okay, let me give you a backstory. I read, oh my god, what was the name of that book? There was Summer. Problematic Summer Romance? Was that the name? I think it was called Problematic Summer Romance. Last year, in the middle of the 12-day war that we had, again, I didn't have internet that time either. So that was the first Ali Hazelwood book I read, I think. And I just picked it up randomly because the concept sounded fun to me. And I knew nothing. When we got the internet back, I searched and I realized, okay, this was a book 2 of a series. And there was another book that is about another character that we go to the wedding of in this book that I just read. And for some reason, that information just left my brain. I started Not in Love again, no internet. I was like, why are these names so familiar? Why do I think that I've heard the name Eli before? Was he a side character to one of her other books? Why do I know them? Why is Eli and Rue so familiar? And then I got to a point, again, I was oblivious. And then I got to a point and he said, she asked him, okay, do you have any siblings? And he said, yeah, I have a younger sister named Maya. And I was like, Maya? Did she name 2 characters the same name? That was going on in my brain. I was like, okay, did she give this character named Maya and there's another character in that book named Maya? What is going on? And then I met Connor Harkness. I was like, okay, this is the book that I didn't read before I read that other book. What is going on with me? Why am I so dumb? And even though I knew how it was going to end because of the next book, it was still a very enjoyable experience for me. I gave it 4 stars. I didn't love it as much as I loved problematic summer romance because I love the tropes in that. The age gap was perfect. I love the dynamic between them way more. I just love Maya. But I love this one too. I love the fact that Eli was capable of loving her exactly how she was, and he never tried to change her or give her the feeling that she needed to change and be different to be loved. He was like, I know you're a little bit weird and you're your own kind of person and you have some quirks, but I love you because of them, not despite them. And I loved that. Again, not as much as I loved how Connor and Maya ticked, but it was really great. And the parts that we saw some hints at Maya and Connor, I just loved them because I didn't know that side of the story because I started it in book 2. And I was like, okay, I really want to read problematic summer romance again because this is making me miss Maya and Connor, and probably I will do that after my exams are done. Okay, May 18th, The Names. Finished it on May 20th. I gave it 3 stars. The Names. I remember a vague concept that it's like trees at some, okay, let me tell you this like that. There's a woman that has an abusive husband, and now they have their second child that is a boy. And in the family of her husband, firstborn sons are named after their fathers. And she's supposed to go and give their son the name that her husband has and his father and so on. And the story splits there because in one timeline, she actually gives the son that name. In another one, she names him something else. And the third one, something else completely. 3 different names. And then it shows us throughout the time how her story and the son's story changes based on that name and how that one single act can change their whole future. It was fine. I gave it 3. I don't know. I think it was more mid than that. 2.5 maybe. It was nothing special. I saw where she was going to go and what she wanted to say. I don't think she really delivered on that. I think she could have done so many great things with that. I just think it was lackluster and it needed something more to make it work. I didn't like any of the stories of any timelines, and there wasn't any moment of the story that I was like, oh, the same thing happened despite everything happening. You know, some parts at least needed to overlap, but they didn't. Or some parts needed to be so different that made you shocked, but it didn't. You know, it had so much potential that she didn't use. That's all I can say. And last, I'm trying to remember this book. Hold on. I think, but not least, What Kind of Paradise? I started on May 24th and finished it on May 27th. I gave it 3.5. I think it's about a father and daughter that live in Montana in a cabin and they have no electricity, some sort of electricity. They don't have any connection to the outside world. She doesn't really know where she comes from, and her dad is in a very weird cult-like mindset of okay, they're trying to ruin our lives with technology. We should be away from that. I know where the world is going to. It's going to be an apocalypse. There's going to be hell coming from the sky. So he's that kind of person, and he's just taken her into the woods and they hunt for themselves and they don't watch TV. They don't have cell phones or internet or anything like that. And she's very sheltered and she doesn't really search for other answers until some things happen and she starts digging around and trying to figure out what happened to her mom. Why are they there now? What has her dad done? What is he doing right now? Because he takes some trips into the city and leaves her alone for a long period of time. It was fine. It was at least a little bit different with all the mysteries that we read. It was at least unique enough and the concept was fun enough, but it wasn't that special to leave a mark on me. At least at the time that I read it, I have thought about this story at some point, so it kind of did leave a mark, but not at the time of reading it. It didn't shock me or touch me, but I think it's grown on me. You know, I think if you want to read a mystery that is like a little bit different, especially with the setting of it, maybe give this one a shot. It could be a great book for you. Maybe I wasn't in the right headspace. Okay, let's just put June and July together because we're done with May. And again, 3 books are not worth separating them. So let's just do June and July. In July, I read Anderson in Bloom, one of the new releases that I wanted to read, and I thankfully got my hands on it and I read it. I gave it 3.5 stars. This was a second chance romance, which, as some of you know or don't, is one of my favorite tropes. I love this trope every single time. I eat it up every single time, and I don't care how it's done. If they're straight couple, lesbian couple, gays, bisexuals, if they're young, if they're old, if they have been separated for 2 years, 2 months, 20 years, do it however you want to do it. If it's second chance, it's probably going to be one of my favorites. And this one was a sapphic one, which is a benefit for it. I liked the story. I don't know why I gave it 3.5. I guess because it was not as special and deep that I wanted to be. But yeah, they were teen TV stars, and one of them did so much better than the other one did, but they have been together for a very long time throughout their whole career. And that whole thing of, okay, one of them is doing so good and the other one is not, kind of comes between them. One of them goes out and does crazy things that TV stars do, and the other one just wants to step away from that life and go live some random normal life, doing some normal job. She loves to be a florist. That's what happened in the past. And yeah, they get separated, and now in the time of the present, and now in the present time, we have her working as a florist in a flower shop in somewhere that nobody recognizes her, and she just doesn't talk to the ex anymore because something happened, and they're just in no contact. She's blocked from everywhere. There's no contact there until there's a drunken contact made. And it goes from there. And I liked them. I wanted more. I wanted the tension to be more. I wanted the love to be more. But there were parts of it that I really loved, and again reminded me of relationships and thought processes that I have had, and the words that I've said before to partners. I liked it enough, just not as deeply as I thought I would. Then I read let's get into that's the only thing I read in July. I started Lesbiana's Guide to Catholic School. That has been on my list for a very long time. I read 60% of it. I am still in the middle of that. I'm going to finish it and I will come back to you with it because I'm really loving it. I just didn't really have the time to finish it, and I just put it aside and never got back to it. So have that at a place in your mind. We're going to get back to it in later months. And then I read Binding 13. Why did I read Binding 13? I don't know. I have been wanting to read this book for a long time. So I just did. That's when I didn't know that there was going to be a TV show. So that's not the reason I read it. It was just on my list for a very long time. And I was like, okay, I don't have anything better to read, so let's just give this one a shot. I gave it 4 stars. I liked it more than I thought I would. But right now, I haven't seen the specialness that people say that it has yet. I'm sure it's to come. It's the first book. There is still time. But right now, I don't have that deep connection to it. I see myself in Shannon in ways that I wish I didn't see myself in Shannon. But I think that the character that I'm going to relate to the most is Katie. I saw Katie for like 3 seconds and I was like, oh, that girl is giving me vibes. And I was like, I think I'm going to relate to Katie so much. And there's nothing about Katie in this book. There was just one scene in one restaurant and she was doing nothing, but the vibes were there and I just saw myself in her. And I hope that I don't end up hating her. I don't know anything about this. And I will be continuing this series. And I'm very happy that there's going to be a TV show about it, I guess. I've seen people have some problems with the casting. I really don't. I think it's fine. I've seen awful castings for books I have loved, and I think nothing will be as bad as the casting for Wuthering Heights was. I'm still traumatized from that. I didn't see the movie because I was like, that is not Kathy and that is not Heathcliff. So I didn't watch it. I think if we are comparing adaptations, this one is very doing well with the casting. It is fine. Be grateful. It could have been so much worse. The only one that I don't really understand what happened, because they're really going very accurate to the book descriptions. I don't know what happened to Lizzie or what the reason was for changing her that much. And I'm not really okay with that because I have a very vivid mental picture of Lizzie. But I think there was a reason and we're going to see it and maybe it works. Let's just give it a shot. Let's just let them make the TV show and maybe we see that and we cannot believe that for so long we were picturing Lizzie as we were picturing her and that is our Lizzie. Let's just give it a shot. Maybe it's going to end up great. Okay? I'm also in the middle of reading A Hue of Blue. I'm 60 again. What is with the 60? I'm 60% in that one too. I'm having mixed feelings about it. I will probably update you when I end it. I'm seeing some potential in it to be very touching and deep. They are getting into that deep layers, but we're not there yet. So I don't really have so many thoughts about it. I will update you when I'm done, and hopefully after I'm done with these exams, I will have so much more to tell you. Okay? That's it. That's what I wanted to talk to you about. In this video, their books that I talked about are so much less than the last video, but I think I talked way too much about them. Thank you for being here, and it's very an honor to be able to do this again. I'm very lucky to be here and talking to you. I'm really glad. It's actually making me feel so much better. If you don't notice, I have severe depression and anxiety. And it's been way worse in this time of war. And this is actually helping, which is something that I didn't expect. I'm so glad to do this video. Thank you so much for watching this video. And hopefully I will see you in the next one. I love you. Take care of yourself. Bye.